Hello, everyone. My name is Suzanne Evans. I'm the Director of Financial Aid and Veterans Affairs at St. John's River State College, and you are joining my presentation today to learn about the financial aid overview and what is financial aid and how to apply for it. This will be for the 2020-2021 high school students with a 21-22 post-secondary year. So entering into your freshman year in the 21-22 academic year. So welcome, everyone. This first screen shows you the language of financial aid. As many of you may well know, that the federal government is used to speaking in acronyms, and the U.S. Department of Education is no different. Throughout your college career, when you go to review your financial aid status, you're going to be seeing a lot of these acronyms that you see up on the screen. COA is cost of attendance. The SAR is the student aid report. The EFC is the expected family contribution number. The FAFSA is free application for federal student aid. The FSA ID is actually the username and password that you create and represents your signature on the FAFSA form. The FFAA is the Florida Financial Aid Application, which is the Florida State application that is used for Florida State grants and merit scholarships. And FAO is a financial aid officer. USDOE is U.S. Department of Education. FDOE is Florida Department of Education, and OSFA, or OSFA, stands for Office of Student Financial Aid. Now, the COA that you see, the very first bullet point, that is an acronym for the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance represents indirect costs as well as direct costs. The student aid report are the results of a student's FAFSA that the student receives either by mail or email. An expected family contribution number, or EFC number, is the number assigned to the student's FAFSA results, and it helps financial aid offices determine what types of financial aid the student is eligible for. The FAFSA is, of course, the free application for federal student aid. This is the actual online application that the students complete for the federal financial aid. And I believe the other ones are self-explanatory. The Office of Student Financial Assistance, or OSFA, represents the department within Florida State that monitors and maintains the Bright Future systems as well as other scholarship systems. Here's the agenda today. What is financial aid? Where do you find it? How and when do you apply? And who can help me? What is financial aid? Financial aid is made up of different forms of money. The first one is considered gift aid or grant aid, which is where these are aid items that do not need to be repaid. There's student loans, which if you choose to take student loans, they will have to be repaid. There's scholarships, which is also a form of gift aid. And there's also considered work study. We'll get more into that in a little bit. Where do you find financial aid? Financial aid can be found through private organizations, through high school district scholarships, through federal funding, and through state funding. How and when do you apply? That's a very good question. That will be determined, based on what institution you are attending and their own personal deadlines for things such as institutional scholarships, or the state may have deadlines for applications in order to qualify for their aid. So you're going to need to make sure that you understand and find those deadline dates. The way that you can do that, you'll need to go onto the OSFA page for the Bright Futures and for the state scholarships, and they have deadline dates there that you can find at their website, and that's found later on in the presentation. You can also go to the institutional's website that you are looking to attend. That will also list different deadline dates for institutional or college-funded scholarships and grants. The FAFSA, the federal aid, that doesn't technically have a deadline. However, some aid is on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner you get your federal financial aid application in, you open yourself up to a lot more aid than someone who waits until the very last second, such as the day of class, to complete a FAFSA form. Who can help you? There are multiple people that can help you in organizations. Your high school liaison can assist you with any type of district or high school scholarships that may be available. Private organizations such as a Rotary Club or a golf club or country clubs or whatever your hobbies, where your hobbies lie, you may be able to find a scholarship if you ask around different organizations, or perhaps organizations that your parents belong to may have college scholarships. And another idea that you may want to keep in mind is if you are currently working, think about tuition assistance as well. A lot of organizations offer tuition assistance, and you would need to reach out to your HR department to see if they do have tuition reimbursement possibilities that you could use. Again, another form of funding for your education. Who can help you at the institutional level? Of course, the financial aid office can assist you. Student services office can assist you. When you log into OSFA, they have a contact name and number and email where you can ask your questions and get guidance on how to complete the application, and so on and so forth. So you just need to know where to look as far as state, federal, institutional, and private funding. And there are a multitude of people that can assist you through this process. Again, what is financial aid? Monies that are received from federal, state, institutional, or private resources. Again, these are categorized based on gift aid, or money you don't have to pay back, self-help aid, which is usually federal work study, or FWEP, which is the state work study program through Florida. You also have need-based items. Need-based items are based on students who have the highest need. Need-based items are things such as federal Pell Grant, federal SCOG grant, subsidized loans, and other forms of need-based grants that OSFA or the state of Florida offers as well. Merit-based typically refers to items such as Bright Futures, where it's if you qualify for Bright Futures, there's different tiers of Bright Futures based on your GPA or the number of volunteer hours that you have. But it's based on some type of tier. The higher the GPA, the higher tier you may be eligible for as far as Bright Futures is concerned. So example of that would be merit-based. And excuse me, and these forms of financial aid can cover both direct and indirect costs. Excuse me. Okay, college costs. What exactly does that entail? College costs are, the attendance varies from institution to institution. The amounts vary based on in-state tuition versus out-of-state tuition, and it varies based on if the student is living on campus in the dorms or if they're living off campus in their own apartment or at home with parents. The cost of attendance equates to direct costs plus indirect costs. So direct costs are made up of items such as tuition, fees, books, uniforms, items that you pay the school directly. That is considered direct costs. Indirect costs are items that the student and or parent expend while the student is attending college. Indirect costs are made up of room and board, transportation, electricity, food, cable, miscellaneous items, medical expenses, childcare expenses. So you see there's those forms of expenses are still remain while you are attending college. And so the colleges are required to account for these items, even though you're not paying the school directly. So your direct costs, your tuition, plus your room and board are averaged out and put into an amount, a figure that you will see as and listed as the cost of attendance. Each school will have a different cost of attendance based on if you're going to a community college or if you're going to an Ivy League school such as Harvard, if you are considered an in-state student or if you're considered an out-of-state student. And it differs if you are living on campus in the dorm or if you're living off campus. So all of these factors and all of these direct costs are averaged out and put into the total amount that you see in the cost of attendance. So your sticker price is not going to be the same as the cost of attendance figure. You can find this information at any one of the institutions that you are planning to attend. So if you log into their website, usually on their website, it's usually found in the financial aid section, you're going to be looking for the net price calculator. And that net price calculator, it is a federal requirement for every institution to have it listed on their website. And once you find it, it will ask you general questions on how you're planning to attend, and a bunch of different factors, and it will give you a generalized estimate of what your cost of attendance could possibly be at that institution. So it's a helpful resource tool for students and parents to determine what their quote unquote price may look like. But again, keep in mind the cost of attendance is not your sticker price. It is simply an estimate of all items put together. So to give you an idea, we've put together different types of college costs. The first one, the first bullet point, you will see a public two-year college, such as a community college. So for tuition and fees, in-state, whether you're living off campus or living with parents, it roughly ranges about $3,440. If the student is attending a four-year university, tuition and fees for an in-state student is approximately $9,410 a year. A public four-year college for tuition and fees for a student who is out of state, that can jump up to around $23,000. And finally, for a student who chooses to go to a private college, tuition and fees, that could jump up even further to around $32 on average per academic year. And this you'll be able to find this. The source is Bright Future by the College Board. Okay, the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA as it's called. This is a federal government. It's the largest source of student aid. So FAFSA distributed and processed by the U.S. Department of Education. The majority of those applications are electronic. They open up on October 1st of 2020. And that's for the 2021-22 FAFSA year is going to be opening up this October 1st. Again, what you're going to have in front of you when this opens up, we'll go into that in just a few minutes. But keep in mind, some aid is on a first come, first served basis. So you're going to see a lot of people rush to get their applications in on October 1st because of that factor. The IRS data retrieval tool. Now, there's a portion of the FAFSA that is going to be asking for income information. It's going to give you the option to manually input your tax data. Or if you meet certain criteria, it will also give you the ability, or it may give you the ability to retrieve your tax data directly from the IRS website. The information for the 21-22 FAFSA year that it will be pulling is based on prior year or 2019 year tax data. Keep in mind that the FAFSA has to be completed every year. There's a myth out there that I hear a lot that students say, well, I completed my FAFSA last year. I thought that was good for all the years that I'm attending college. That is simply not the case. Every year you are attending college, you are going to want to apply for a new FAFSA year. FAFSA years run from July 1st until June 30th of the following year. So anybody who is planning to attend college the next fall, a year from now, is going to have to complete a 2021-2022 FAFSA, which opens up this October 1st of 2020, and it will be based off of 2019 tax returns. So keep in mind, anytime you want financial aid, make sure you have a current FAFSA on file. When you go to the FAFSA website, this is the landing page. So if you've never completed a FAFSA before, you're going to take a look at the top section in the blue box, and it says new to the FAFSA process. Completing the FAFSA form is free, and if you'd like to fill it out now, you would click on Start Here. If you're a returning user, someone who has started the FAFSA but has left or saved in the middle of the application, you would choose Returning User and click Login. At any point in time through the FAFSA application process, you can always click on the Help Center up at the top of the page, and it can assist you with answers to your questions as you go through each and every FAFSA question. Now, once you start here, keep in mind the student will need to complete or create a FAFSA or FSA ID. This, again, represents your signature, your unique signature on this FAFSA application. You're going to want to make sure that you keep this information, your username and your password, in a secure location. It remains your username and password for as many years as you are completing a FAFSA and applying for federal aid. If you are considered dependent and you need to put your parents' information on the FAFSA, the parent will also need to make sure that they create an FSA username and password, because that will then represent their unique signature on your FAFSA application. Make sure you use separate email addresses so that if you should ever lose your password or your username, it can be retrieved easily. Do not use the same email address for the mom and the parent. Make sure to keep that separate. All right, getting started. You're going to want to gather some important data. You will need to monitor priority deadlines. So of course here it's reverting back to the state and institutional deadlines will vary. So keep in mind you will have to go onto the OSFA website and look through and make sure you understand their deadlines, as well as the institution you are planning to attend also has deadlines to have these applications into them. Confirm the FAFSA dependency versus independency requirements. So dependent students are required to include parental information. Independent students are not required to include parental information. You're going to want to search for school codes. Now, on the FAFSA application, you can put or list up to 10 separate colleges on your FAFSA application. When you're done and you've submitted your FAFSA application, your results will go to all 10 colleges, even if it's a long shot and you don't even know if you're going to be accepted or if you're even going to go to that college. They can still receive your results. If you find that you want to add more than 10, you can log back into your FAFSA, take off some of those schools, and add other schools in order for them to receive your FAFSA results. Plan to sign and submit online using the FSA student ID and the FSA password. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Keep it in a safe place because you're going to have to retrieve it year after year after year. Okay. The biggest hangup that we typically see in the financial aid office is the student's determination of dependency isn't always what the student calculates it to be. This is where the biggest hiccup is. So just because a student turns 18 years of age and may not live with the parents any longer does not mean that they are not considered dependent. The Department of Education has a slightly different idea of what an independent student is versus what the state may deem as an adult independent person. So for those factors, we will be going over the list of questions that the Department of Education deems an independent student is. So if the student can answer yes to any one of these questions, they would be considered independent and would not need to provide parent information on their FAFSA application. So the first bullet point, were you born before January 1st of 1998? As of today, are you married? At the beginning of the 21-22 school year, will you be working on a master's or doctorate program? Are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training? Are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? Do you now have or will you have children who will receive more than half of their financial support from you between July 1st, 21 and June 30th of 22? Do you have dependents other than a child or a spouse who live with you and who receive more than half of their financial support from you now and through June 30th of 22? At any time since you turned age 13, were both your parents deceased? Were you in foster care? Or were you a dependent or ward of the court? As determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? Does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by a court in your state of legal residence? At any time on or after July 1st of 2020, did your high school or school district homeless liaison determine that you were an unaccompanied youth who was homeless or was self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? At any time on or after July 1st of 2020, did the director of an emergency shelter or transitional housing program funded by HUD determine that you were an unaccompanied youth who was homeless or were self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? At any time on or after July 1st of 2020, did the director of a runaway or homeless youth basic center or transitional living program determine that you were an unaccompanied youth who was homeless or were self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? So you'll see all of these questions, some of them, the very start of those questions are really direct and to the point. The other questions may have to dig a little bit deeper. So if you answer yes to one of the later questions, you may be required by the financial aid office of the school you plan to attend to submit third-party documentation such as that court order or that high school documentation indicating that they deemed you a homeless or risk of being homeless, or you were in a legal guardianship. And so just because you click on yes to one of those questions, you may have to provide proof of what you actually indicated was yes to the financial aid office. So be prepared to submit that documentation. The Department of Education also goes into who counts as a parent. A legal parent includes a biological or adoptive parent or a person that the state has determined to be your parent. For example, when a state allows another person's name to be listed as a parent on a birth certificate. So if you're living with your grandparents or foster parents, legal guardians, older brothers or sisters, widowed step-parents, and aunts and uncles, they are not considered parents unless they have legally adopted you. All right, and then it's going to start asking questions about your parents. So the first thing that they're going to want to know is the parent's marital status. So the parent that you're living with or your parents, they need to find out if the parents are or were never married. Are they unmarried but living together, married, remarried, which means it could be that your original mom and dad, your biological mom and dad, have since divorced and you're living with your mom and your mom is now remarried to your stepfather. They would be choosing the remarried status, and then they would have to put in the month and date of their remarriage. If the parent that you're living with is divorced or separated, or if either parent is widowed. So once you input your information, you determine your dependency. If you need your parents' information and their income amounts, and all of that has been inputted, at the very end, it's going to ask you to sign with your FSA ID and have the parent sign with their FSA ID, and then you submit your FAFSA. Once you submit your FAFSA, it takes about 3 to 5 business days for your application to go through the Department of Education and then be returned to the schools that you have listed on your FAFSA, as well as the results are sent to you either by email within 3 to 5 days or 7 to 10 days if you did not provide your email address. At that point, I highly suggest you look over the results of your FAFSA application and make sure that you don't need to complete or make any corrections to your FAFSA application. If you do need to, you can always log back into the FAFSA website and make your correction and then resubmit your FAFSA. But once that student aid report comes back, it will contain an expected family contribution number, or an EFC number. That EFC number helps the financial aid schools determine what types of aid you may be eligible for. And the way they do that is the school will take their cost of attendance figure and they will subtract the student's EFC number from their cost of attendance figure. And that gives the school the student's estimated financial need. Now, aid items are based on need. So the more needy the student, the more aid items they may be able to provide. Okay, additional information. So contact your institution to determine your award disbursement process. You're going to need to make sure that you understand that process. Contact the institution for special circumstances or professional judgment needs. Contact the institution to determine what other types of aid applications are available. Again, just because you've completed the FAFSA doesn't mean that you've completed the state process. And we're going to be going into the state process shortly here. But I would suggest going into the institutional website and taking a look at what institutional scholarships they may offer. They will have deadlines for those applications as well. So you're going to make sure, number one, you complete a federal application through the FAFSA, complete an institutional scholarship application through the school, and then we're going into the state aid shortly. If you have private clubs or tuition assistance, make sure that those are on tap and you've applied for those scholarships as well. Apply early and keep on applying. We always tell students to use student loans as a last resort. Now we are on to the Florida Financial Aid Application, or the FFAA. Just like FAFSA, the Florida Financial Aid Application opens on the exact same day, or October 1st of the student's senior year. That means October 1st of 2020, the state application opens up and the students are going to need to apply and submit their applications as soon as possible. Apply early. So those students, the application must be completed prior to August 31st of their high school graduation year. So that means if you don't end up applying October 1st of this year, or even at all this year, you still have the availability to apply next year up until August 31st of your high school graduation year. For the FFAA, one application is used for multiple programs and not just the Florida Bright Futures Scholarship Program. The student is responsible for logging in to check their status, their online notifications, and their award history. You can find this at www.floridastudentfinancialaid.org. All right, so this is the FFAA landing page, and this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have to create a login, again, a username and password. And if this is the first time that you've ever logged in, you will need to click on the first time applicants, and that will take you to the application. The state of Florida also has need-based programs such as the Florida Student Assistance Grant and the Florida Work Experience Program, which equates to the federal work study, or working at the school or off campus to assist with charges that you may incur while you are attending college. Tuition assistance programs, such as Access to Better Learning and Education, which is the ABLE, or the William L. Boyd Effective Access to Student Education Grant Program. Again, one application will be reviewed to see any and all programs that the student may qualify for. The merit-based programs, again, we're talking about your bright futures. There is a student handbook that I highly suggest that you print out and read over. That will give you the chart of eligibility and awarding criteria based on whatever tier the student may qualify for in the Bright Futures program. The state of Florida also has a Benequisto scholarship. And again, all of these requirements can be found in the student handbook. Other types of grants and scholarships through the state include the First Generation Matching Grant, the Florida Farm Worker Student Scholarship, the Jose Marti Scholarship Challenge, the Mary McLeod Bethune Minority Teacher Education Program Scholarship, the Rosewood Family Scholarship, and the scholarships for children and spouses of deceased or disabled veterans. Also keep in mind, depending on which institution you plan on attending, some scholarships may not be available because of the type of institution that it is. Some vocational technical schools may not qualify for certain scholarships through the state, and vice versa. Some state universities may not qualify for scholarships or grants that are budgeted for vocational or technical programs. Another area that you may want to check into is the Fastweb, or going into Google and Googling scholarships. One of the largest scholarship websites is Fastweb. And what that does is once you create a profile in Fastweb, it's a search engine that can search for scholarships within its websites or different websites based on your profile. So it's more of a targeted search. It has over 1.5 million scholarships worth $3.4 billion. There's other resources such as a college search, career planning, and much more. And that can be found at www.fastweb.com. Other websites such as fina.org, your high school or school district, are other good sources to search for scholarships. I can't emphasize enough, continue to apply. However, when you are applying for private scholarships, either through Fastweb or online scholarships, be very wary of scholarship scams. If a scholarship indicates that it is a guaranteed you are approved for the scholarship, you just need to pay a processing fee, or just need to submit your credit card information or your social security number and date of birth. I would never give this information out. You should never ever have to pay for free money. So don't pay any processing fees or any type of fees associated with it. Don't give out your personal information. That is how identity theft happens. You should never have to give out your personal identification information, and never a credit card. If there is a website that is asking for this information, you need to report it to the ftc.gov for possible fraud, waste, and abuse. You never want to give out your personal information. Again, free money should never cost a processing fee, or any fee for that matter. So be wary. There are other items or websites that can assist you while you are going to college. Mapping Your Future is just one of those, and it's found at www.mappingyourfuture.org. It's a nonprofit, and they offer a lot of free resources to assist the student and the parent with college preparation, school selection, career exploration, and money management. Items that can help the student through their college career. Another such website is going to be Navigating Your Financial Future. They offer, again, free resources such as financing higher education, managing day-to-day money or a budget, career planning, and your school life management and resources, again, are available at no cost. So again, these are helpful resources, and I always lead students to these areas if they're struggling with keeping a budget while they're in college, if they don't know how to handle money, or even balance a checkbook. These are very helpful resources. Okay, review action items. Federal financial aid. Mark your calendars for October 1st, 2020 as the FAFSA application opening date. Make sure you create your FSA username and passwords now, and this goes for both the parent and the student. The state application also opens up October 1st of this year. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're done completing the FAFSA, you go in and you start completing the FFAA application. Two separate applications. One is federal, one is state. Ensure you're meeting your requirements for both Bright Futures and graduation. And private scholarships, apply, apply, apply. Last but not least is the Office of Student Financial Aid Assistance Contacts, or OSFA. This is the state of Florida contact information in case you are running into problems with your Bright Futures application. You can contact Pete Hernandez, and his contact information is below. If Pete isn't available, there's a staff ready to assist the parent and the student with any questions or concerns that they may have regarding the application process. Their email and their telephone are listed there. At this point in time, this finishes out my training with you. If you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to Student Financial Aid, or you can reach us at St. John's River State College. The financial aid department number is area code 386-312-4040, or the financial aid web at sjrstate.edu. Thanks again, and have a great year, and we hope to see you in college next year. Thank you.
Hi, class of 2021. My name is Vicki Johns. I'm the Recruitment and Orientation Coordinator here at St. John's River State College. Just wanted to share a few tips that I've noticed that might be helpful for you in the next year as you're getting ready to apply for colleges, whether here at St. John's River State College or any other university.
While I am the Recruitment and Orientation Coordinator for St. John's, the majority of this information will apply for any application you're filling out this fall. I promise, only a little bit's going to be just St. John's information. And even then, you might find it helpful, I promise. As you prepare to fill out your applications, it's time to make sure you know your personal information. If you have a social security number, it's now time to start memorizing if you haven't already. And take pride in your name and capitalize it. It's one of the first things we notice about your application, and if it's not done, it sounds simple, but we realize it. And while you're filling out your application, watch out for autocorrect and auto-filled answers. For something that is supposed to help, technology has a way of complicating things if not checked. Make sure it's your name, date of birth, email. You get where I'm going with this? Going on this application. If you don't, and it's not your information, you're going to have a headache in the future. Student information release forms. These are something I would suggest you're going to take a minute or two in the near future to decide on how involved someone besides you, the student, will be in the onboarding process at your college or university you're applying to. Once you've applied, your information is legally protected by FERPA. Without one of these forms on file, a parent or guardian will not be able to speak about your admissions files, financial aid packages, grades without your consent. It's a notarized document that we have to have on file, so you might want to think about it now. Financial aid. I realize Director Evans mentioned that you can list 10 colleges and universities on your FAFSA. May I humbly suggest you include St. John's River State College as one of those? So maybe you can list 9 and then St. John's. I'm going to give you 2 big reasons why. Plans change. If nothing 2020 has taught us that no matter what we plan for, things might be different. And the other option is transient courses for summer. If you do go to a university, maybe by the summertime you'll want to come home, not stay in the dorm, be able to be around your friends that have also come home, but you can take courses with us over the summer and take them back to the university. That way you stay on track. If you're planning on graduating in 4 years, you have to take summer courses. Why take them at the university? Come back home to St. John's. If either of these things already happen, we have the ability to access your FAFSA without the extra work on your end if you decide to come to St. John's. Scholarships. While thinking about paying for college, don't forget about scholarships. There are more scholarships than you realize. And not just the ones on merit. There's ones for creative ways of using duct tape, how you tie your shoes, being left-handed, making a video of you singing a silly song. You name it, there's a scholarship. And don't roll out the little word amount ones either. There isn't a limit on the amount you apply for or a limit on what you can earn. Apply to as many as possible. 2 reputable sites that I would suggest checking into are goingmary.com and fastweb.com. But also check in with your school counselors about other local options. If you are thinking about applying to St. John's River State College, don't forget about our scholarships. The St. John's River State College Foundations Office offers over 180 scholarships, and there's just 1 application. That application will open October 1st and close April 1st. When you're filling out that application, you're going to be doing like an educational resume and a 1,000-word autobiography. Don't raise your eyebrows. If you have social media, you clear 1,000 words about yourself in less than a month. And then you'll also need 2 letters of recommendation. If you haven't asked for your letters of recommendation yet, I would get on that as soon as possible. And those letters of recommendation are not going to be coming from friends and family. You're looking to teachers, school counselors, they write them all the time. Coaches, managers, an adult authority figure over you. That's who's going to be writing those letters of recommendation. And you can kind of use them a lot. So I would get on asking for that and watch those deadlines. Like I said, I'm saying it again. You're going to be tired of me hearing it. Watch for those deadlines. Universities and colleges set dates for a reason. Know your dates and don't wait. It could be the difference of getting a yes or a no or a scholarship. The most important thing to take away from tonight from me is if you have a question, ask it. I can't stress this enough. Colleges and universities have whole departments of people like me that would love to answer your questions about our schools. And there really is not a silly question. I'd rather you ask me a question than feel lost about the application process. So seriously, if you have a question, ask us. My name is Mickey Johns. Like I said, I'm the Recruitment and Orientation Coordinator, but if you have any questions about St. John's River State College, please contact me at my email or my direct office line here. Happy to talk to you about St. John's, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye-bye.